Now, before we even get into Camera Raw, one of the first things I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of before we start anything is that even though it's called Camera Raw, think of it as the place to start for all of your photos. All right, whether you shoot in RAW or JPEG, or maybe you shoot in the RAW format today, but maybe 2 months ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, whatever it is, you didn't, and you're going to go back and edit some JPEG photos. I want you to understand that it doesn't matter. Okay, Camera Raw is actually for RAW or JPEG photos. So here's an example. I have Bridge open, and I've got a JPEG photo selected. So if I want to open it in Camera Raw, all I got to do is come over here to the File menu, go down here to Open in Camera Raw. It's even got a keyboard shortcut, so Command R on the Mac or Control R on the PC. So all I got to do is hit that, and it's going to open up the JPEG right inside of Camera Raw. It's the same exact dialog box, all right? The same window, the same everything, and I can use the controls exactly the same way. The only difference is if I have a RAW file. So there's a couple of differences, but they're very, very small. One difference would be is if I have a RAW file, as I start to adjust white balance or even exposure or something like that, with a RAW file, I have a little bit more leeway. The quality's not better, okay? It's not going to be a sharper image or anything like that. It's just with a RAW file, I've got a little bit more leeway that if I ruined my exposure when I captured it, I've got a little more leeway to try to bring that back. But I'm not talking like a stop or two difference. You've got plenty of leeway when it comes to your JPEGs. I'm talking about like, my exposure is blown and maybe I need to bring it back. Well, with a RAW file, I'd have a little bit better chance of doing that. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Same thing with your white balance. If you just butchered your white balance in camera on a JPEG, you'll start to degrade the file a little if you had to do a huge color change. Again, I'm not talking about minor shifts here. I'm talking about very, very large changes. So your JPEGs, for the most part, are totally just fine in Camera Raw. The only other things that you'll see that are different is if I come under here to my white balance presets, this is a JPEG, I'm not going to see all those little presets that I would see for a RAW file. And I'll show you in just a second what they are. But I'm not going to see anything else here. I'm just going to see as shot, auto, or custom. The other difference is going to come in the camera calibration panel. We're going to talk about these camera profiles. The only one that I'm going to see here with a JPEG is embedded. Okay, so let's close the JPEG. Let's open up a RAW file here. And let me just show you what the two changes are. Remember we talked about white balance? Well, when I have a RAW photo, I've got all these little white balance presets inside here. Okay, not a big deal. I mean, you could still change your temperature and your tint. It's just you won't have the little presets inside here, which are just shortcuts to changing the temperature and tint, by the way. If I change the shade, change it to shade, you could see it just moves those two sliders. Okay, so that's one. Back in the camera calibration panel under camera profile, I do like these. I do miss these when I just have a JPEG. Again, it's not the end of the world though, okay? We do have ways that we can work around this. So if you have a JPEG photo, don't feel like you just need to trash everything you learned about Camera Raw and now I got to go into Photoshop and do it a total different way. If you've got a JPEG photo, by all means, you can open it in Camera Raw. I showed you back inside of Bridge. It's right under here under the File menu. The other way you can do it if you don't have Bridge open is you could go over to Photoshop. You could go under the File menu down to Open, navigate, find the JPEG that you want to open, and the only change here is if you go under Format, see it says JPEG, change it to Camera Raw. All right, you change that to Camera Raw, you hit Open, it'll open it inside the Camera Raw interface rather than opening the JPEG straight into Photoshop.